Alright guys, welcome back. This week we're going to be dealing with fruits and vegetables. As McGee is putting it, fruits and vegetables are pretty much elegant wrappers for water. They are majority water. The cell walls that actually give them their structure are pretty much, think of it as a block that has water, cell organelles, and nutrients within inside of those. And we're going to be learning how to cook with those this week. A couple of the projects we had the choice of the applesauce and the vegetables. I decided to go with the vegetables. I've always wanted to know how to keep vegetables a nice bright green color, more appetizing when cooking, so whenever I start experimenting with some of my own vegetable recipes, I can try to give the most appealing or the aesthetic looks that you're going for when we're trying to make some of these products. What I decided to go with was the roasted asparagus with the lemon chili oil. What we're going to do is we're going to try to make a control group that has the perfect green color, you know, exactly what we're looking for if you're going to make it. One batch that has color deterioration, I'm going to use acid for that. The second one, I'm actually just going to overcook it because we know that majority of the good rule of thumb for cooking vegetables is that 7 minutes for the colors to deteriorate. So we're going to experiment with using some lemon juice for the acid and overcooking for the other color deterioration. The first step in actually prepping this is we're going to be using flavored infused oils. This is a way of actually adding flavor to low-fat dishes, and actually what we're going to use is different flavor elements that are going to get trapped inside the oil whenever we infuse it. Some of those volatile organic compounds are actually going to come out into the oil and be attracted to the fat-soluble ones, and so they actually get stuck in the oil. We'll also use a little bit of water, as Corrier has mentioned, to dissolve some of those water-soluble flavors, which will actually be taken out whenever we strain the oil. What we're going to start out with, though, is for making this infused oil, we're going to use one minced shallot. I actually got this at Walmart. The brand is Frida's. Shallots right there. Then we're going to use 1 teaspoon dried pepper flakes. I couldn't find whole pepper flakes, so I just ended up getting crushed, and I got great value. Then we're going to use 1/4 of a teaspoon of white or black pepper. I already had some ground black pepper, so I'm just going to be using Kroger brand ground black pepper. And then we needed 1/4 a cup of either peanut oil, corn oil, or vegetable blend, and I went with Smart Balance vegetable oil blend because they actually added in some of the omega-3s, and getting any extra omega-3s or omega-6s is always a plus. And then I'm also going to be using, once again, the Private Selection Fine Mediterranean Sea Salt. Then I'm going to be using the zest of the lemon. I'm not actually going to be using any of the lemon juice, and this is where the acid factor comes into play. Because we're not actually using the juice, we're using the zest, which doesn't have any of the acid in it. It just has the flavor aromas, and what we're trying to get is just the flavors out of the skin for that citrus flavor without actually introducing any acid to it. So I will end up using a zester and zesting 2 of them for the oil, and then the last one will be for aesthetics. Then lastly, what we'll need is we're going to need about 25 to 30 spears of asparagus. I just bought roughly that. I'm sure it might be a little bit more, a little less, but we'll make do. I'm just going to split them up into 3. What I'll end up doing is one of them is going to be cooked, you know, the controlled group, perfect sauce. The other 2, I'm going to drizzle on I'll make the oil, but I'll actually add in some lemon juice into it to add the acid for one of those in the pan. So they're all cooking together. They come out at the same time. I can taste them all at the same time, so they're kind of side by side rather than trying to prepare one, then redo it, prepare another, because then I'll probably forget what the other ones tasted like, and I want to really get a side-by-side comparison. So with the asparagus, the last one, I'll take the other 2 out, and I'll just leave the last one actually in there to cook a little bit longer to try to deteriorate that color and show you guys what kind of color it'll get. So yeah, the first start is I'm going to get our minced shallot and the lemon zest, all of our dry ingredients, and start sauteing it in a saucepan. One thing I did want to add, I'm actually starting to chop up and mince this shallot, but I ended up putting the asparagus back in the fridge because they said that Corrier actually mentioned that the best temperature to keep the asparagus was at 30 to 40 degrees, and I actually put a thermometer in our fridge and found out it's at about 34.8 degrees Fahrenheit, so it's right in that happy medium. The lemons can be at 50 degrees, so that's why they're sitting out. Plus, we're not actually using the lemon juice. We're just going to use the lemon zest, and I'm getting ready to use it, so it's all right that it sits out. I just wanted to add that note. All right, guys, as you can see here, I've got my oil, my onions, black pepper, and red pepper flakes right now are going to be simmering on a low heat. I have it on 2.5 to 3 on an 8 scale for our heated coils. I'm just going to let this simmer for about 5 minutes. Once that happens, then I'm going to actually add the lemon zest in the water, and we're going to let it infuse for an hour. But I just wanted to show you what it looks like in the pan. All right, while that's actually simmering, I wanted to talk to you guys about the lemon zest. I just got done washing these, the surface of the skins, drying them off. It's very crucial that you wash the skins, especially if you're going to be using the zest. One thing to remind you of, think of all the people that go around touching these while they're in the supermarket with their hands. Yeah, you don't know where that's been. So make sure that you wash these fully. What I'm going to use is this zesting grate. I'm just going to take it into the bowl. And what I'm going to do is just at an angle, just rub down, get another side, twist, and just collect it into the pan. You want to make sure that you get just the yellow part. You don't want to take down the white because that's where all of our citrus compounds are. And you don't want to run the risk of actually getting some of that acid breaking through that skin barrier. So I'm just going to keep doing this, rotating it until I've collected enough zest for my oil. Alright, just to show you guys, this is the oil after it's been sauteed, or simmered, sorry, not sauteed. And the lemon zest has actually been added, so now it calls for that it's going to be set out for an hour. We're going to let some of those flavors really infuse into the oil. And then we're going to strain off the large particulates and then let the oil drain out, and that's actually what we'll use on the asparagus. So I've got an hour of waiting and prepping. I'll see you then. Alright guys, while the oven's preheating, we're actually preheating that to 500 degrees. I have to use an oven because I don't have a broiler. A broiler would be ideal because it's very intense heat for a low amount of time, which is what we want with vegetables. Because of that 7-minute rule, we need to cook, especially asparagus, a thick vegetable, all the way through. And a limited amount of time means we need to increase the temperature. So rather than using the broiler, I'm just going to use the top rack. Set the oven to 500 degrees and leave it in there for about 6 to 7 minutes. To keep the greens very green, one of the suggestions Courier mentioned was blanching. And blanching is actually taking something and boiling it for a very short amount of time. This actually destroys some of those enzymes that can cause enzymatic browning, also known as polyphenol oxidase, which is a PPO, mostly found in bananas and potatoes for causing that browning. But with the blanching, what we do is we kill some of those, since enzymes are proteins, we're basically just denaturing them, destroying them so they won't run their normal function and brown them. I actually work at an internship right now in a big manufacturing plant, Michelina Dinners. If you guys have ever heard of it, we make a lot of frozen dinners, and we actually blanch all of our vegetables and fruits before we actually, quick freeze them, dry the liquids off, and then quick freeze them, because it gives a more appetizing color, and the frozen vegetables will keep that color longer if they have been blanched. Since we are doing the asparagus, we can't use the blanch. We're going to be using the baking method. That is one of the methods that they actually offered. Something else, I'm going to be using a baking sheet for mine. I've just actually wrapped it in aluminum foil to keep it for easier cleanup. But it's not going to be, we're not using a tin pan or a tin or iron pan, which can actually cause the discoloring, the greenish-brown discoloring that we don't want because the magnesium is replaced, which magnesium is in our asparagus, so we have to worry about that. I don't have any copper pans. They say that copper does work, but it actually has too much copper that actually gets implemented in the diet, and it's not actually healthy. So I'm just going to be using the baking sheet with the aluminum. Alright guys, our oil sat out for an hour now. I have already strained it, so we've got all the flavors. This is the remaining, or the remaining part of what's left, the shallots and the lemon zest. And now I have my chili oil. For the experiment, how I have this set up here is I have divided, this side is going to be my acid side, and then this side is going to be just regular, but I'm only going to take out half of them at 6 minutes, and then put the other ones in for another 5 minutes to see if I can get the color to change in the unappealing way. So I'm going to start off first with, I got to add some acid, so I'm going to use this lemon juice. I'm just going to get it right on all of them. Cover them up nice. I don't need too much. It's about a tablespoon, maybe a little less. And then I'm going to take the remaining oil and cover it. And I have the oven preheated to 500 degrees. I've checked my oven thermometer. We are right at 500. I'm going to leave them in there for about 6 minutes. One thing I wanted to add, as soon as these come out, we're actually going to add a little bit of salt for taste. And then we're also going to add the lemon zest from the other lemon that we had. One thing I wanted to show you is I actually used a different zester. This one right here compared to the great one. This actually gave me a lot more aesthetic peels, more restaurant type, what I'm used to, and it actually worked a lot easier than using this grate. A lot less work, they look better. So if you ever use zest in a recipe, I recommend using this one. We're going to add that one on as well, and then we're going to use the remaining bit of our oil. So just wanted to give you a heads up. Alright guys, we just got these out of the oven. I just wanted to show you. On this side right here, we actually have our controlled one. It's kind of hard to see, but this one actually has kept most of its color. Yeah, I guess it is really kind of hard to see. I guess I can try to explain it. The ones in the center here are the ones that I left in for an extra 5 minutes, and they actually have a darker tint to them. It's like a dark green, almost like a forest green, not a really bright, vibrant color. It's just the whole stalk itself looks darker than the other one. With this one, I put the lemon juice on. Actually, whenever I pulled it out with this one, you could tell this one was the bright green color, but this actually started getting a brown, like yellowish color. I guess kind of like the greenish yellow, what the depiction of chlorophyll B would be. This one actually maintained its bluish greenish chlorophyll A color really well, and that is in part due because Corriere has explained that using lemon zest rather than actual lemon juice, you still get the lemon flavors from the zest without actually adding the acid. The other thing that she recommends whenever using an acid sauce on vegetables is to use the dressing. If it does have acids in it, dress it right after you prep it and get ready to serve it right before you serve it so that it doesn't have any time for the acid to start changing the color. The other thing she had mentioned was using raw vegetables, not blanching them, because whenever you blanch them you take off that protective coating, but using actual raw veggies and storing them inside of an acidic sauce or whatever you want to marinate it with. So those are some of the tips, but with this, we use the zest and we actually, still maintained the lemon flavor without actually putting the lemon juices or the acids in it. I have some samples right here that I'm actually going to try. This is the regular one. It's cooked all the way through, which means it was right at the right temperature. I'm getting slight lemon flavor, not intense. I'm getting more heat from the red pepper flakes and the black pepper, I think. But it's like a heat at the end, and the lemon zest that I added at the end for the aesthetics actually is still giving some of the flavors too. But yeah, it's really good. I'm gonna try the this is the overcooked one, the one that was in there for an extra 5 minutes. Little mushy, not firm texture. Getting a lot of that heat. Woo! Got a lot of heat on that one. Really mushy. Doesn't really have its texture. Doesn't taste burnt or anything. It just doesn't have the right texture. This one's the lemon juice. Very acidic flavor. Definitely getting the lemon taste. It's not bad flavor. It's a little overpowering. Wow, still getting a lot of that heat on that chili, the red pepper flakes. This one doesn't taste any different. It's just the color is kind of not as appealing. It's the darker yellowish green color. Still kind of tastes the similar. Has more of a lemon flavor because actually it has the actual lemon juice added to it. But all in all, Corriere has proven that going with this method of the lemon zest and cooking it right before that 7-minute destruction of the cell wall and the deterioration where the enzymes can come and start reacting to change the color of the vegetables. But all in all, this was a good lab. If you wanted to store these, you could refrigerate them. You just need to make sure that they go in the fridge within 2 hours of your after preparation. They also mentioned that you can freeze it as another method. Once again, you also want to make sure you get it in the freezer within that 2-hour mark. But I'm actually probably just going to eat mine because I'm about to start grilling some steaks, get a little extra 4th of July in for the remainder of the weekend. But thanks for hanging out with me this week, guys. Next week, we're doing meats. See you.